Big up, everybody. How we doing? Welcome. Welcome to another installment of the Chelsea Hour. I am your host, Marshall DBDX, Casually FC, whatever you guys feel like calling me nowadays. First things first, apologies for the lack of content. Just to put it out there, and this is the usual explanation for me. I promise you it's not an excuse. I mean it. I've just been so busy with work, new changes to my day-to-day work because there's been some changes in the company, so apologies for lack of content, lack of shows. It's also been a little slow barring today with the whole, financial side of things for Chelsea. But yeah, apologies for that. Even this weekend, I won't be able to do a Arsenal preview and all that stuff. I wanted to get all that done, but unfortunately, things just don't work out. But I mean, we might talk a little bit about Arsenal today. We'll talk Chelsea. This is what I love to do on this show, and we have a very, very special guest. I actually met him in my trip to the UK, which, by the way, by the way, that vlog will also come out as well. I promise, chat, all you guys that would come out. It will come out. I promise. But yeah, met this fella. I've known about him for a while now. If you watch Chelsea Fan TV, you'll definitely know him. You definitely have seen him. Finally got to meet him very briefly outside of the bridge after the Paphos game. Had a lovely little conversation, and then it was my turn to, be in the limelight with Alex and discuss how I felt about that game in particular. But you guys probably have seen him on Chelsea Fan TV. If you haven't seen him at Chelsea Fan TV, you probably saw him at one of the Chelsea games, whether it be home or away, because he's a regular there. Might as well call him a Chelsea Ultra. Why not? Seen him there a few times, and if you don't know him from there, you've probably seen him on the fan cam. And if you don't know him from the fan cam, you might even know him from his own channel, BlueBrotherCFC. Guys, let's roll out the red carpet and give a big round of applause for our special guest today, BlueBrotherCFC, Charlie. Big up to you, my friend. Welcome. I'm so excited to have this discussion with you, man.
Wow,
how are you doing, brother?
I've ever had applause on YouTube. So yeah, no, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the kind words. No, it's great to be here, and looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah, and I'm loving the Reece James top in the back. Proper Chelsea here. We don't mess around here, man. But guys,
the only problem with getting stuff signed is it then costs an absolute fortune to get it framed. But I can't just have it hanging in the cupboard. So it's
true.
It's one of them, unfortunately. But
people don't think about that part. People
don't
think
think about that part. No, I mean, to be fair, I could have it on a coat hanger hanging up, but it just looks crap, really. So it ends up costing a fair amount, but it's a one-off.
Yes, it's Reece James, man, captain, leader, and soon-to-be legend. There's no discussion on that one. He is going to go down as a Chelsea legend when his time comes. But big up, man. Thanks for coming on today. I look forward to discussing everything we're going to discuss today, which is mostly going to be Chelsea. I mean, we'll probably talk about the Arsenal game. Guys, if you haven't done so already, smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, check out the links in the description. If you are looking in the description, you'll see Charlie's channel down there, so be sure to show some support. His Twitter's down there as well. He's got a good Twitter. You guys know how I feel about Twitter. He's got a great Twitter. I actually like what he says on Twitter, and he doesn't drive me up the wall like the majority of Twitter fans I see on that platform. But yeah, actually, Charlie, we were backstage. We were talking. I didn't realize you actually came to the U.S. for Club World Cup, and you came to the final. And I'll admit, it's not as nice as a stadium as the Bridge. It really isn't. The Bridge is actually really, really nice. Now that I've been there, I'm like, okay, I understand why they don't want to get rid of this stadium. It's a really nice stadium. It's something like home. Something feels like home about it. But you go to the MetLife, it's just like a giant, all right, we're here. We're at the MetLife, but it's a big stadium. What'd you think of MetLife?
Nothing like I've experienced before. Obviously, it's it's an NFL stadium, isn't it? Really, rather than a soccer stadium, I suppose. But in terms of
you can call it football. We understand.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to offend anyone, but yeah, no, rather than a football stadium,
you're offending more people by calling it soccer.
But look, it's a bit of a, I don't want to call it a concrete bowl, but it sort of has that kind of feel to it. But look, for me, stadiums are more about the memories you create in them. And for me, I don't need to go to the MetLife again. You know, I've been there. We became world champions, and I think that could well be my one and done. But look, I always love experiencing like football in different cultures and different countries, different ways of doing things and whatnot. And yeah, man, I enjoyed the experience a lot. It was it was great. I mean, maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much if we hadn't won, but it's a nice stadium to face. It's massive. You don't realise. I mean, obviously, like in the UK, there are big stadiums in the Premier League, but it's nothing like that. It's vast.
Yeah, and the other thing too, that's why it's like, now that I've experienced the bridge, me as a Chelsea fan who prior to experiencing the bridge was all for take it down, build a big one, whatever, like, you know, do what you got to do, right? Or move to a different location. Now that I've experienced it, it's just like, you know what? It's not just about the capacity, which, listen, I think we both agree. Capacity of the bridge probably should improve because we are a pretty massive club globally. But you got to have a charm to it too, and you said it perfectly there. It does feel like a concrete bowl to an extent that just fits a lot of people, and it's a massive stadium. But when you think about it, like, and here in the States, like, we have a lot of stadiums like that. When you think about it, you go to the UK, the only stadium maybe comparable to that is Old Trafford, Wembley, and I might be missing another one there. That's about it. Like, there's not huge stadiums like that. So it was interesting to hear your perspective on it. Are you planning to travel to the States for the World Cup by chance?
Probably not. I mean, I'm not that.
I don't blame you.
I mean, yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. And I'll be honest, mate, I'm not that into the World Cup. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy it, but I don't really enjoy it until, like, you get to the knockout rounds. And then,
that's true.
Look, to be fair, if England made the final, if I could find a ticket that wouldn't cost like $10,000, then I would probably make the effort to go and do it. But yeah, I haven't got any plans to travel out to the World Cup in the summer, but that might change. But no plans right now.
Yeah, and we were talking about just like seeing Chelsea in the States is always tricky, especially for that Club World Cup, just because of how, you know, one stadium is here and then the other stadium's across the country, and it's like a 12-hour plane, like not plane ride, but a 12-hour drive or a 4-hour plane ride, and it's like it gets expensive. So transportation here isn't like as, you know, well crafted like in the UK, like in England. Like in England, like I was able to get around just through bus or train, underground, overground. Like, you know, I was able to get by that way. It's not so easily set up here in the States. We do have foundations there and structures, but it's not as
yeah, well. The train was all right. The train station's right next to the MetLife. I done all right on that. Just got on and then I think I don't know where I was going, but I was going. I went to Penn Station. I got there fine. It was all right.
Yeah, that is good. Anywhere else outside of that little area, it's a bit of a nightmare.
That bit, I was all right on that bit, but yeah, I think a lot of people I spoke to are like the infrastructure is there, but it's not great.
It's not as efficient. You guys have it down pat. It's a much more well-oiled machine. Here, not so much. We got to build on it, if anything. Hopefully, it happens one day. But enough of infrastructure. I wanted to get your thoughts on when we first talked, very briefly, but when we spoke, it was after the Paphos game. I think it was Rosinier's like third or fourth game in charge. I kind of wanted to gauge how you feel so far about Rosinier. We're about 2 months in. I mean, we're undefeated in the league, which is nice on paper. The last 2 games, not so nice, even on paper. And, we only really lost to Arsenal, and we have Arsenal coming up next. I kind of wanted to gauge, how are you feeling about the new gaffer? Because when I was in England, I ended up going to Paphos. I saw Chelsea women, so that was a fun experience. And then I ended up going to Selhurst to see Crystal Palace.
Oh yeah, that's not a great experience, Sellers. But
I didn't mind it. I thought it was great.
It's an old school ground, and it's kind of like, you know, a staple of sort of the Premier League and sort of English football culture. But if you're sort of towards the back, the view is terrible.
Yeah, I was getting that awning that comes out, that whatever that
is.
Yeah,
the roof that's like sloped. Basically, like if you're I mean, for people that haven't been, like if you're sort of not towards the front, then because at the back the roof slopes down. It's just, the best way I can describe it is it's like you're watching the game through a letterbox.
No, that's perfect.
It's basically what it's like. So
I couldn't see the sky. I just had enough to see the pitch. But regardless, like I enjoyed it. I mean, I felt unwelcome for sure, which I think it's supposed to be the feeling when you're going to an away ground. But in terms of, you know, the game itself, after the game ended, the supporters were already chanting Liam, like they were already, you know, backing the guys. I was like, oh, that was quick. You know, it didn't take that long to get over Maresca. I guess, how do you feel about the current situation when it comes to the football with Chelsea, with Liam, and, you know, I guess how Maresca left? Where do you stand on all that?
I mean, look, Maresca leaving, I think, was something we knew was coming. I didn't think it would come as quickly as it did. Things escalated pretty quickly towards the back end of last year. And look, you know, he felt things weren't right for me, thought it couldn't work in those conditions. And ultimately, only he knows what those conditions were and what was and wasn't happening kind of on a daily basis. And look, ultimately, you know, if you find working conditions, you know, unworkable, then if you then to leave is the right thing to do. I felt that maybe we could have potentially got to the end of the season and done it then, but obviously things were untenable. It's unfortunate. Look, we weren't in a great run of form. There's no mistake about it. I think
it was 1 win in 9.
We were 1 or 2 wins in 9. But having said that, you know, he didn't exactly leave us in a terrible position. We were semi-finalists of that Carabao Cup at the time. The FA Cup hadn't started. We were on course for a top 8 finish, although there was a little bit of work to do. The top 8 finish was still possible. And we were 5th in the league and in contention for the Champions League. So Rossini didn't inherit a terrible situation. I think he's done reasonably well, in fairness to him. I think he's done better than I was expecting. I actually like him more than I expected I would. I think it's refreshing to have a manager who's just honest when he speaks. Too many managers try to gaslight you and whatnot, and don't just say it how it is in terms of if it's been a poor performance or whatever it might be. You can argue that he's had a favourable run of fixtures, and that is true, but you do still have to win those games regardless of the level of opposition. The football isn't too dissimilar, but one thing that is definitely better is there's more freedom in attack. We're scoring more goals. The attacking play is certainly better. And then obviously he's introduced sort of the midfield pivot of Santos and Caicedo, where obviously Maresca didn't really appear to trust Andre Santos as much. I think that provides a nicer balance to the team with Enzo a little bit further up, and you got that bit more solidity in the middle of the park. But ultimately, the same things are still happening in terms of the defensive mistakes, in terms of us being essentially the masters of our own downfall. If you look at the games that we've had under him in the league, certainly, other than the second goal for West Ham, the Somerville goal, all the goals we've conceded have been our own doing, have been because of us. And so that part's not changed. So, you know, you've got slightly different way of football, slightly more expansive brand, maybe a bit more pleasing on the eye, but ultimately we're still ending up with the same outcomes at the moment.
No, and you mentioned it too, right? Like, the run of form that we're in right now, where we're winning these games, it was a favorable run of form, you could say. I mean, I think we could both agree, like we were struggling in those games regardless. Like barring Burnley, we looked convincing under Maresca. That's when Santos played. I remember that game specifically. And then November ended up being like a really, really good run of form for.
He was manager of the month.
Yeah, he was manager of the month. I think we only conceded 2 goals that month or something like that. I forget what the stat was, but we were really good that month is the point. But regardless, like even prior to that month, there was multiple games where we struggled against these low block sides and that. So in a sense, it's good that Rosinier's come in and he's getting these results, but it's, you know, the frustrating little stain on it is the last 2 games, right? Leeds, where you may have seen the stat already. I believe it's either 19 or 17 points dropped from winning positions.
19 in total, 17 at home.
Yeah, it's especially the at home one. I'm not a fan because, you know, this is Chelsea, right? Like the bridge is supposed to be a fortress of sorts. You know, there's a reason why, you know, under Mourinho we conceded 15 goals and like we're known for defensive solidity. It's in the DNA of Chelsea. So to concede so many goals and lose so many games, I forget what the record is at home. It's not great. We have a better away record than
we won record. 6. Home record is 6 wins out of 14 this season.
Yeah, it's not good. That's not good.
It's not good enough. It's like you've got to have. If you want to finish, look, forget about challenging for a title. If you want to finish in the top 4 or top 5, the home record has got to be better than that. You've got to be winning the majority of your games at home. You know, you're not going to win every game at home, right? You know, you are going to lose a few, but like out of what? How many home games is it? It's 19 home games, right? You've got to be. For me personally, if you're going to be a serious side, you've probably got to be winning 14 or 15 of your home games out of 19.
Yeah, and I think what makes it worse, Charlie, is that they were from winning positions. So for me, you know, you look at that stat and you look at how we drop these points. I think a lot of it has to do the mentality, and you probably agree with that. The other outlook of it is, and this is what Maresca was yelling about in the summer, is we needed that solid, you know, we already know, good 7 out of 7 consistent center back. And you know, I wanted Gahey in the summer. Now he's at City, and for those of you who didn't want Gahey, look at how he's doing at City. This guy's performing consistently, game in, game out. Defense, the quality in the defense has just not been good, and I don't know about you. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, scrap them all." I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I would keep maybe 1 or 2 and build from that, because I'm not the type of fan that's gonna just. I like Josh. I like Chalobah. You know, I've been bipolar on Chalobah, to be fair, but I'm not gonna trust Mamadou Sarr and Achimpong to be the 2 center backs going next season just because I want to scrap all these guys that have not been good enough. I think building off of Fofana, I think Chalobah will still be here next season. Building off of them, Levi should be back. Hopefully, he gets back to his best sooner rather than later. I think building off of that and slowly but surely, you know, getting these new guys in is probably a good idea, because I don't know. Do you think the quality of center back is there?
No, not at the moment. It's not for us. Look, we know that Colwell is a big loss. You know, there's no point going over the fact we didn't replace him when we should have done. And maybe things could have been a little bit different. But I mean, look, I think that the defensive situation from a centre back point of view, I think is really interesting going into the summer, because like we saw last summer where we kind of revamped the forward line, I think 4 or 5 attacking signings come in. I think there's going to be a similar revamp at centre back. I think, you know, Cole will obviously be here. I think Wesley Fofana will be here as well. But then you can genuinely make an argument for, and for me, Trevor Chalobah should be part of the squad. Not starting every week, but he should be a 3rd or 4th choice rotation option that comes in. I think
I am 100% okay with that. Yeah.
And then you're in a situation. So I'd keep those 3, right? Then for me, the rest can go. Tosin, not good enough. Badiashile has proven he's not good enough. Those 2 can go. And then you're left with a situation where you've got Mamadou Sarr and you've got Josh Achimpong. Those 2 can't both be here as well next season. But so I think Sarr's here next season, and I felt this for a while. Ever since Josh signed the 5-year deal when he did it, not last year, the year before. Yeah, I wasn't seeing a regular route into the first team for minutes. I like him. He's better than Tosin. He should be playing more than he is. Chelsea always say how much they trust him. They turn down big money for him, supposedly, and whatnot. But it's an interesting way to show that you trust someone by barely playing them.
Talk is cheap.
Right, like their words don't match up with the actions and the minutes that he's seeing. And look, Chelsea might not want to get rid of him, but if I'm Josh Achimpong and I'm looking at the situation where Chelsea are going to sign another centre-back this summer, that's going to push you further down. You've got Reece James and Gusto at right back. There's not really a proper look in that position. I don't see anything other than him just stagnating if he stays at Chelsea. So for me, regrettably, I think he's going to be one that, whether he's looked to sell him or whether he decides he needs to move on to play, I think it'll be one that's gone as well. So for me, I think it'll be Acheampong gone, Tosin gone, Badiashile gone. And then Chalobah's interesting, right? Because we agree that he should probably stay in a squad capacity because he's proven that he's good enough to do that. The issue we've got is that he's got 2 years left on his contract come the end of the season. And we know with this ownership, it's like, right, at 2 years, you're either moved on or you sign a new deal. We know what they've done previously with Chalobah. They've tried to force him out. They've tried to get rid of him. He's kind of sort of proven them wrong and sort of almost shoved their stance back in their face with how he's done since we recalled him on loan from Palace. But I don't know if they're looking to offer him a new deal or not, to be honest. So I think that there's a big decision to be made. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made from a defensive point of view.
Yeah. I feel like I agree with you, right? Like, because I think what these guys like to do is they like to completely overhaul sections of the pitch, right? I remember when, in the beginning, they completely overhauled the midfield, like over the course of just two
windows. That January and summer 23, we signed Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo in 2 windows.
Yep, it did 2 windows. And then in that same span of time, within like 2 windows, we also got so many attackers that our front line now is, outside of Palmer, is completely different than the front line we had last season. So I do feel that you have a point. I think maybe in the summer, hopefully that's the case because we need it. It's an overhaul of those center backs because we haven't really done much we haven't had much success with the signings we had of those center back or the defensive outside of, you could probably call Gusto somewhat of a success. That first season he was great. After that he was bad. And then
you look at the centre backs we've signed under this ownership, right? Disasi and Badiashile have not been good enough.
No.
Tosin was a free, and in fact, and to give him credit, last season he did a reasonable job. But he's not good enough. So they signed those 3 centre backs. They've obviously signed Mamadou Sarr, who we don't know if he's good enough, even though he's got promise. We're not sure. They signed Aaron Anselmino as well, promise, but he's not kicked a ball for us outside a couple minutes of the Club World Cup. So they've signed 4 or 5 centre backs. None that we know are actually good enough for the club or not. So we spent a lot of money on centre backs, and most of it. I mean, look, I think Fofana is a very good defender, and I think he's done well this season. And when he has played, I think he's done well. But obviously, the injury and the amount of time that he's missed, kind of makes people view the signing a little bit differently. I think he's done well. He's done much better this season. He's been fit for the majority of it, which is a big plus. But yeah, outside of him, I don't think you can make a case for a single centre-back signing we've made under this ownership has been any good.
Yeah, and even then, Fofana, you mentioned, was under Bowley. It wasn't even under these directors.
Yeah.
So that was when Bowley was cowboying it up with all the sign of everyone, doesn't matter the money, write the check, it doesn't matter. So it was a wild west. But on this topic too, like, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I almost forgot. Are you worried about this summer in terms of these players that have 2 years left on their contract? And the players I'm talking about specifically, there's 4. As far as I remember, because we just talked about this in my show last weekend. Tosin's going to have 2 years left. I know you're not worried about him. Chalobah's going to have 2 years left. Cucurella's going to have 2 years left. And our boy Reece is going to have 2 years left as well. I'm not going to lie to you, Charlie. I could understand the first 3 I named, but Reece is the one where I am worried. I am actually very worried. Like, in the back of my mind, and maybe you don't feel this way, so you tell me. In the back of my mind, I just have this hunch that I can't get over, that they're gonna try to do the same thing they did to Mason and Connor to Reece.
I don't feel as pessimistic about the situation as you. I do think he will sign and he will stay.
Mind you, I don't think it'll be something where like, oh, Reece wants more money. Like, I think Reece will do everything in his power to stay at Chelsea, but there does come a point where, like, for example, if he's on the 200K a week right now or whatever he's on, if they're like, okay, we didn't make Champions League, we're not going to cut you to 150, or maybe
I hear
something
that.
ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, like that will be in the contracts anyway already. I mean,
sure.
But look, for me with Reece, I think look, he would sign. I don't mean whatever the terms. Obviously, you know, people have, you know, they've got a, you know, you've got a worth that you think you're worth, and you deserve that money. I think he's on 250 now. Reece at 26 years of age, the captain of the football club, top player, world class.
100%.
This next contract, if it's another 4 or 5 year deal, taking him in his prime years of his career at the club, for a player of his caliber, this lot have got to be offering him 300K.
I agree.
They have to be, and that's the not the concerning thing, but that's the thing we're yet to see now. Is that when it comes to, because when they've renewed players, right, they've not renewed sort of our better players, as it were. Obviously, Palmer signed an extension after that first season under Poch, fair enough. But in terms of coming up to renew the top players, not that Palmer's not, but coming up to renew those top guys, we're not sure what money they're prepared to offer. Reece, for me, should be offered 300K. Whether he's offered that or not, I'm not sure. But I don't worry about him leaving. Look, if we miss out on the Champions League, it makes things a bit more difficult, sure. But I still don't think that's enough for Reece to think, do you know what, I want out and I want to go and I want to go and play somewhere else. I want a different challenge. I think the other ones that we know, Tosin is probably highly unlikely to be renewed. Chalobah, we agree that he should probably stay, but I think that's one where you can't be sure he's going to be renewed. The one that I'd be most concerned about is Cucurella, because he's 2 years left on the contract. He was he signed improved terms last year, but the telling thing with that was it was just a pay rise. It wasn't an extension of the current deal. Now, like, I don't know how football contracts work. There's a lot of ins and outs, a lot of I's that need putting and T's that need crossing or whatever. I would have thought if you've agreed a pay rise, surely if you're happy with the existing terms, why would you not just do an extension in terms of length at that point? Who knows? But yeah, he'd be one at 27 years of age. Where, look, it's not old, but for Chelsea, that's getting on a little bit, which is a mad thing to say. He would, I don't know what money he's on, but he would probably, I mean, he maybe wouldn't have another pay rise because he just signed improved terms or whatever. But that'll be one where I'm thinking, I wouldn't be surprised if they look to move him on. You know, you know, he's spoken about how at some point he'll probably go back to Barcelona or go back and play in Spain or whatever. For me personally, I think we'd be making a massive mistake if we didn't renew him and didn't keep him. He's 27, along with Nuno Mendes at PSG. I think they're the two best left backs in world football. And the other concerning thing is as well, the left back market's not great really at the moment anyway. And given our track record and what these directors like to do in the market, you're not bringing in a player on career level. You're not bringing in a player close to that level. Whoever would come in, unless you're signing Nuno Mendes, which you're not, it's going to be a considerable downgrade.
Yeah. How do you, like, when you say that, you know, him would be like a massive concern, is that a reflection of Hato, or is that more a reflection of just how high of a level Cucurella has set for himself?
It's not a concern about Hato. I think that Hato's young. He's a bit inexperienced. He's done better. He's played a bit more under Rossignol, but you know, he's 19 years old. Probably be 20 next season. He just hasn't played enough Premier League football. You know, you can't go from an experienced top class operator like Cucurella and then suddenly think, oh, actually, Hato's going to be ready to be the main guy next season. He's not. And you're creating, and also you'd be creating. We've already got a lot to do in the summer, right? You're then, if you don't renew Cucurella and you decide to move him on, you're creating another massive gap in the squad that you need to go and address. You're creating more work for yourself when there's an obvious solution there that you just sign him up to a new deal. So, look, for me in the summer, we need a top class left winger. We need a centre back, and we need potentially another midfield player. And I think we need a genuine alternative to Palmer in that number 10 role because we don't have one.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's actually true. And like when you put it the way you just put it, where like if you're thinking about squad planning in the future, your two fullbacks in this team have contracts that are going to be running out in 2 years. Save yourself the headache. Just give them the extension that you need to get them. Then you can worry about replacing that fullback 2 or 3 summers later, where you know how our owners are. They like to spend the money in the summer, not so much in January. So then that's when you can like deal with that. But the biggest underlying issue we have right now is the center backs. So a lot of what we just talked about, it's all reasonable. And even with Chalobah, I don't mind Chalobah staying personally, but only if he is there as a squad player and we actually get or reinforce in the center back position. Because as a starting center back, I'm sorry, like his performances have been overall generally good. He still does make his mistake here and there, and in the beginning of the season he was really struggling. Every now and then he has his moments too, but as a starting center back, I'm just not sure he's ready to take that mantle, or maybe he's just not of the level enough to be a starting center back at Chelsea. I'm thinking like a starting center back, the standards has to be high for Chelsea. Rotational, like you said, I think is a perfect role for him, and I'm sure he'll be okay with it as well. Coming off the bench, I think is a perfect role for him. I would have been a lot more comfortable seeing Chalobah come off the bench than a Tosin, for example.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, like 100%. But in terms of the rest of the squad, which I really would like to discuss too, is how do you feel about this new pivot though? Like now that you've seen under Maresca, he likes his experienced players, and most managers are like that. When these managers make decisions, I think part of the decision making is, well, if I put in Santos and it backfires on me, it's going to look really bad. Oh, he benched Santos over playing his experienced World Cup winner Enzo. You know how the headlines can be. Rosinho's come in, and I had a feeling he would do this. Rosinho's come in, and he's been willing to try the youngsters out more and give them more playtime and be more forgiving and give them more chances. My opinion is I really like the pivot we've had now with Santos and Caicedo. I think Caicedo didn't look too good in the beginning, but now he's finally getting back to his form, and I think maybe some rest helped him out as well. But now we look a little bit more solid there, and I know we've been conceding a few more goals regardless, but I think attacking-wise, this guy's breaking lines, he's finding the passes, he's getting a tackle in, intercepting, he's doing a lot of work in there. So I want to ask you, how do you feel about this pivot now that we have Santos and Caicedo for the most part?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a positive. As I said before, I think that the balance of the team works well. I think Santos and Caicedo complement each other very well. And I think it was obvious, maybe not as quickly as this, but I think it was obvious with Rosinho coming in, Santos was going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that, given how important he was to Rosinho when he was on loan at Strasbourg last season. I think that was always going to be the case. Look, maybe a slightly different role at Strasbourg. I think he got 10 goals in the league last year. He's playing a bit more advanced, whereas in this pivot at Chelsea, it's not quite as an attacking role as that. But look, he's been brilliant. He's been very, very good. And to have him, and hopefully Lavia can keep himself fit once he's back in the mix, to have those two as options to rotate in that pivot and to rotate out Caicedo or Enzo when we need to do so, that's a really, really strong midfield quartet. And I'll argue that there's not many, if any, better midfield quartets than that in the league. I think you'd have a hard case arguing against it. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Santos. Obviously, there's things he can improve for sure, and he can definitely get a lot better than he is right now. But the pivot with Enzo further up is it definitely provides a better balance to the team, and there's that bit more defensive solidity as well.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who actually goes to the ground, and I say that because watching the game on the ground versus watching it on the television is
so different.
Totally different.
But I'll tell you, right, I've been to games and I'll get home and I'll just watch the highlights back. I was like, was I watching the same game? Was I there? Because people you think haven't played well or like you sort of think you've done better than you did. So I thought we played well today. You get back, it's like, oh, we're terrible. Like it's people, I don't think a lot of people don't get how how different watching the game on the TV is. Like you'll see things on TV which you don't see at the ground, and vice versa. So yeah, you do see the game very differently from them two viewing perspectives.
Yeah, actually, really quick, big up Footy Judge Mo. Thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate it. That's the raid alarm going off. Big up everyone coming from Footy Judge Mo. Be sure to smash the like on your way in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and show some love and support for our guest here, BlueBrotherCFC, or Charlie, as a lot of people know him. Links in the description. The reason I bring that up, Charlie, and you're totally right, because I'm not gonna lie to you. I came back to the U.S., watched my first game since coming back from England on my computer, and then I almost booked another flight back to England because I was like, I want to go back and watch it at the ground because it's so much more fun. But the reason bringing that up was, how do you feel about Enzo? Because watching it here versus on the ground, I feel that with the double pivot we have here, the way we're set up, I feel like Enzo Fernandez gets left out of the game a lot more. He's not as involved. I haven't even seen too much of that box crashing we saw under Maresca. Like, it's kind of phased away a little bit. And I don't know, like, I think part of it's also because I think it's pretty obvious to tell Rosinha is not a big fan of Garnacho. I think most of us agree with that. So he's been playing him in this left forward kind of role, but it feels almost like I'm watching Club World Cup again every time he's in that lineup, and it's like, all right, he's in this left forward role where it's kind of, he's there, but he's not really impacting the game. And I know there's a much better player there. I kind of want to get your thoughts since you go to the ground and you watch him in person.
Yeah, he's one, right, that divides opinion so much. When he's playing well, not a lot of people say much. I mean, people do obviously say stuff, but not a lot. People don't tend to say a lot when he's playing well. The moment Enzo could have 5 very good games in a row, then have a bad game, right? Which is but people, as soon as there's one bad game, there just seems to be a pylon. And I think for me, I think he's a great player. I think he's a top player. I think he's a lot of important moments for Chelsea. Not
the
just
fans love him. The fans absolutely love him.
Fans do love him. Not just this season, but last season as well. A lot of the important moments, the big moments, he's always there. He's always involved, whether it's, the goal to equalise in the Conference League final, whether it's last minute winners against West Ham, important goals in games away at Tottenham. Like, he's the top scoring central midfielder in the Premier League this season.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's not had a good game against Burnley. He had a poor game. He had a poor game. But he's not a left winger or right winger. I know he wasn't playing as like a touchline winger or whatever, but he's occupying that space. That's not really his game. When you get the best of Enzo Fernandez, to get the best of Enzo Fernandez for me, you've got to get him on the ball as much as possible. You've got to get him using that range of passing, and you've got to get him arriving in the box. When he's out on that left side or right side or whatever it might be, you're losing that element for me of him arriving in the box, particularly from a central area. I'm a big fan of him. I like him a lot. But I think he's almost becoming not the fall guy, but he's becoming the fall guy for how poor our options are on the left. Which is essentially it. For me personally, look, Enzo can work in a pivot, but I think the Santos Caicedo pivot is actually a better balance, as we've discussed.
More solid,
And then you're then left with having to play him centrally. I don't mind playing Palmer on the right drifting in. Palmer doesn't have to be a touchline winger out on the right. He can occupy that right space, but then have license to drift in. But yeah, it almost feels at the moment like because of how poor Gittins, Garnacho and whatnot have been, it almost feels like Enzo's being shoehorned into a position that doesn't really suit him that well. Because of the deficiencies of others, like if we had a competent winger on the left, if we had a Semenyo, for example, right? Sure. You're not going to see Enzo fielded in that position that he's been fielded in over the last few games.
No, I agree 100%. And the thing with Enzo is, it's again, like you were saying, he's being shoehorned into a position that he's probably not at his best at, and I've been critical of Enzo this season, and I do like him. I do think he's up there with one of my favorite players. I think last season he was phenomenal. I think even the season where we acquired him under
first 6 months under Potter, he was class.
Yeah, under Potter, I think he was fantastic, and even a little bit under Poch, I feel like he was very underrated. I think he was over criticized as well, because you look at some of the chances he was creating so many chances, but we just had Nicholas Jackson fluffing them or Nani fluffing them. And it's like, well, when you're not getting assists and all this stuff, it's going to look bad, even though you're creating all these chances. But this season, I feel like, I don't know. He does. You're right. He does have the stats to back him, and he's just scored important goals. I mean, even just recently, the West Ham goal, that last minute goal that won us the game, that was a massive, massive goal. Yeah, it's just in recent time, like he's not been as impactful, right? And it was, like you said, people talk about it, and people like to, almost scapegoat him a lot. And I try to give the benefit of the doubt. And it's like you said, he's being played in a position where it's not favorable. And especially when Cucurella's not there. The last game, when it wasn't Cucu, it was Malo Gusto.
Yeah.
I remember, this is so vivid for me. I remember one time when Ziyech was still here. I was watching the Champions League game, and we all came on Casually. I think it was Casually at the time. We came here and we started criticizing and lambasting Ziyech. And I was like kind of being fair to him, and then I realized, oh, well, how would you feel? How would your performance be impacted if you are on the left wing, which is not your side, and you had Marcus Alonso to interchange with? Not to say Alonso was bad now in hindsight, because we've had a few bad players in this team now, but like, he doesn't support. He doesn't do the runs. He doesn't give you the overlaps and stuff. Marcus Alonso wants a ball and he wants to volley it, laces, and score. He might as well have been a striker in another.
Yeah,
life.
I mean, it's interesting as well, because like you sort of look at it and you sort of think, is this team maybe better, in a different system? Would the personnel suit, a 4-3-3, for example, where you could have Santos,
that's what a lot of us say.
Santos and Caicedo as the 6 or whatever, or Lavia, or whoever you want. You have Enzo and Caicedo as your 8s, and then you have Palmer off the right coming in, maybe, or you have Esteval playing off the left or whatever, and then you have Raul Pedro up front or something, and then you've got Neto as an option out wide. You've got, and then you've obviously got Gittins and Garnacho on the bench as well. I don't know. I wonder if these players actually maybe suits a 4-3-3 better. I think a 3-man midfield is, I mean, you could argue we're almost, I know it's not quite a 4-3-3 at the moment, but, with the pivot and Enzo, like, why you couldn't have Santos as a 6 and then Enzo and Caicedo playing sort of a bit more box to box. I don't know. I just think Enzo playing as a number 8 is probably his best position. And so, I don't, look, whether we change to a 4-3-3 or not, I've got no idea. I mean, it's not, we're not really going to see it this season. Maybe it's something we work on in the preseason or whatever. But I wonder whether that's maybe actually that suits the personnel that we've got better.
Yeah, and on to that point as well, it's no surprise that under Maresca, we saw players playing a bit out of their position, maybe in positions they're not as comfortable with. Like, for example, you had Malo Gusto that was inverting. In some games, it was great. Like, the Barcelona game, for example. The
Liverpool worked well,
game. Yeah, it worked well, which goes to show, like, Maresca working with what he has and making the best of a crappy situation. But even recently, like what we were just talking about, we have Enzo kind of as like a left forward, like a left 10. And wow, okay, back to back. Here we go. Sarcasm City, thank you so much for the raid. 2 raids. I've never had 2 raids in one live stream, so big up. I appreciate it. Smash up the like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and be sure to show some support for Charlie here. BlueBrotherCFC, link in the description below to the Twitter and the YouTube page. Like I was saying, I think the fact that we're playing these players out of their position just goes to show that we lack quality in certain positions, so much so that we have to 100%. Shoehorn some players into positions they're not comfortable with. Like, even and I kind of saw this coming to an extent. People were upset when they saw Malo Gusto at left back, and to me, I was like in the back of my head thinking, there's a possibility that Hato is just not ready to play game in, game out at this level, that he has to put Malo Gusto there.
But I also think with that one as well, though, I think he was testing Gusto out at left back with a view to playing him there against Arsenal. Because if you haven't got Fofana and you play a you play a Sarr or a Achimpong as your left centre back. If you have left centre back of Sarr or Achimpong, which is inexperienced, and you couple that with Hato there as well, that left side of the defence then is not bad, but it's lacking a lot of experience and a lot of know-how in the Premier League and in big games. Whereas I know Gusto's not a left back, but he is more experienced. He's got more Premier League know-how.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not his right position, but if you're going to go with an Achimpong or a Sarr, for me, I think maybe you do see a Gusto there. Whereas if you go with a Tosin who already knows not good, but in Rosinia's eyes, it's experience. He obviously he trusts him more. He might then go with a natural left back in Hato because Tosin being there next to him as such maybe negates a little bit of that inexperience. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, it will be interesting, and like we were saying, like because Gusto is in that left back position, I think it does hinder the game of like Enzo. That's why maybe you don't see him as involved because the link up isn't there, like when Cuckoo's there or when you have a proper left winger there. But I'm glad you mentioned it because this now leads us to the Arsenal game, and this is as close as the only preview I'm going to be able to do this week, chat. So I hope you enjoy it. In terms of the Arsenal game. I'll start off with this. Just your opinion. If Maresca was still here, do you feel that we probably would have gotten a result, or at least have made it a closer game in terms of the Carabao Cup?
It's so hard to tell.
Okay.
Obviously, you know what you're going to get from him more in the big games because he'd had more of them, and we'd seen sort of a kind of a tried and tested formula, which which even if it didn't get us wins all the time, we were competitive in the majority of those bigger games. We get to really see what Rosinia does in the big games. Even that, I know Arsenal didn't really get out of second or third gear in that first leg, and we did obviously gift them a couple of goals with some terrible mistakes.
Yes.
I don't think we really found out too much about how Rosinia approaches big games from those two games in the Carabao. I think the second leg, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a similar approach for this league game because I think we have to be honest, right? Like, we've not beaten Arsenal for 5 years. As much as we hate it, Arsenal are better than us right now. And, they're more consistent. Look, in a one-off game, I think we can still cause them problems. But I think ultimately, if you're going to try and take the game to Arsenal and try and out-football them as such, I think we're going to come into big problems. So I think, again, our best opportunity for getting a result, I think, is a similar approach. Whether you play 5 defenders or not, whatever. But I think we need to stay in the game for as long as possible. And then we will have our moments, but it's about being clinical in those moments. Because we don't get a lot of them. I don't see us creating numerous gilt edge opportunities in this game. We'll create some chances. We'll have a couple of very good chances, I'd imagine. This is going to be about staying defensively solid, but when you're missing 2 of your first choice back 4, it's going to be made harder. And even with our first choice back 4, we've been making a lot of mistakes anyway. And then it's about taking advantage of those moments. So look, I'll be honest, I'll be surprised if we won. But
me too.
I would be surprised. It's not impossible, but I'd be surprised. Look, I think we're capable of taking points. I think we're definitely capable of getting a draw, but we can't just have 3 or 4 players on it. Every single player has to be on it. We can't be carrying any passengers. Everyone's got to be at the top of their game for us to have an opportunity. And I just worry about the back line. I worry about the back line anyway, because we just seem to be making mistakes, lapses in concentration, not taking instructions on, and all that sort of stuff. I just worry now with half the back line missing in terms of first choice, Fofana suspended, Cucurella injured. That does put us at a disadvantage. There's no denying it.
100%. I agree with you. And you know what? I just need to point this out real quick. I did see this
It's
clip,
funny,
by the
yeah.
way, and I am so glad someone just stopped Neville, because sometimes these guys get away with such
Not really sure what he was
ridiculous
seeing.
comparisons. Yeah, Gary
Like
Neville, I don't know.
Like
Man.
Neto is nothing like Hazard at
Nothing,
all.
nothing. I'm just so happy, Roberto, because he's managed both of them, I'm pretty sure. I'm so happy Roberto Martinez shut that down immediately, because, like I said, so many times there's these discussions that are had on Sky Sports or the Overlap or whatever, and no one is there to shut him down, and he just get away with murder. So happy, so happy. But back to the game, right? I think in terms of and EE, you're right. Yeah, our attack has been all right. I mean, in terms of the game, actually, let me ask you this, Charlie. Where did you stand on what camp? Because there was like 2 camps after that Carabao Cup, and I think I know where you stand on, because I think I saw your post-match reaction with Alex on this. But there was the camp of people saying we should have gone for it against Arsenal, and there's a camp of people saying the plan was perfect, we just failed to execute. Where were you leaning on that one?
Somewhere in the middle. The plan wasn't wrong. Okay. It's just the execution wasn't good. We defended well, but then I think we were too cautious for too long. I would have liked to have seen us
halftime
make the changes at halftime, and then have a go, then have a proper go in the second half, because you're already out at the end of the day. Like, you're already out. So I would have liked to have seen us have more of a go sooner. But at the same time, I understand people saying we should have gone for it, but if we'd gone for it and we were 2 down in 20 minutes, those people would be saying, "Oh yeah, we should have maybe been a bit more conservative." So it's a difficult one to get right. I feel like the approach was correct, but as we said, I would have liked to have seen the changes at halftime, and I would have liked to have seen us give it a proper go in the second half. It felt like, I don't know what it was like on the TV, but it felt like in a stadium, like we could have still been playing now, and we would just never have scored. It didn't feel at any point. Look, we were still in the game, and when you need one goal, you've always got a chance in football. But it just felt like we just weren't going to score. We just weren't doing anything, particularly dangerous in the attack. And even when it's in added time at the end, we're still recycling possession on the edge of the box. Just put the ball in.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I'm somewhat in the middle too, where like I understand like playing it safe, because you don't want to just leave yourself open for all types of counterattacks. Like, I don't necessarily rate the Arsenal attack, and I think most people would agree with me on that. But it's at the same time too, like, you can't leave yourself wide open. Like, you can't just be susceptible to multiple counterattacks, because at one point Martinelli or Nani or Gyökeres are gonna score one. Like, I know they're not great, but they're bound to score 1 or 2 if given the chances. But in terms of the game coming up, I do think you're right. I wouldn't mind setting up the way we set up in the Carabao Cup, because at the end of the day, at least with a draw, you walk out with a point. And we're going to the Emirates, where we're in this. We have the second hardest form, because I saw the Athletic article come out with the chart of the most difficult fixtures remaining versus easiest fixtures remaining. Villa have the easiest fixture. They're in first place. Chelsea are second to last place in terms of difficulty of fixtures remaining. And we have a very, very tough run of fixtures coming up. And I'm sure you're going to go to every single game and try to back the boys as much as possible. But in terms of Arsenal, like, we're going to the Emirates, hostile ground. We know our defense isn't amazing. I do think we can get something. Like, I actually do think there's going to be goals in this game.
We're capable of getting something. It's just whether we decide to commit self-sabotage again.
That exactly. And if I see all bodies in the box again for corners, I'm going to be so angry. Like, we already learned this lesson. We don't have to go back and do it.
With the Burnley thing, right? I don't understand why you only do it for certain teams. Surely, if you leave 3 up, you have less people in the box. Why would you not do that against everyone?
Especially considering how heavily on set pieces a lot of these teams are relying on now. And even Chelsea, I mean, I think we're leading the league in terms of set piece goals. It could still be true. I don't know if it's updated, but we rely on set pieces too. So I mean, regardless, like just being smart about how we go about this, being a little creative in terms of the approach with the set piece coach or whatever. But in terms of the game itself as well, the rest of the game. I do think João Pedro's in scintillating form. He's on fire. He's had a GNA in like the last 5, 6, 7 games, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. So he's been on fire. I do think he can get something out of this game. Even though Palmer hasn't been his clinical self, I do still think he's been playing decently, creating chances. He's been looking a little bit more like his old self. I think he's got more of that freedom in the attack like we mentioned earlier. So I think that's been beneficial to him. I do think he can do something. The wings, we'll see. Maybe Neto can have 3 good games in a row. He had a good game last time. He had the whole city had a man of the match performance.
Esteban missing as well is going to be a.
He's back in training apparently.
No, that was. I think those were some. At the moment on Twitter, there's a lot of false stuff going around that people are getting on. Yeah, look, we'll get updates on him tomorrow in the press conference. But look, even if he was fit, I don't think he'd start this game.
That's fair.
But not having that option is a problem. It's clear that he doesn't really seem to rate Garnacho because he's not using him very much at all. Gittins is missing, so it's almost leaving yourself with Neto and Palmer as your wide options, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. So even all that being considered, it's one of those situations where, like, considering we're missing some key players in key positions, especially defensively, I would be happy walking out of the Emirates with 1 point.
Oh, mate, I'll be delighted. And I know that sounds mad as Chelsea fans.
I know it does sound mad,
because we got to be striving for more than that. But given the current context of the situation, our record against Arsenal, sort of where we are in the league compared to them, mate, a point would be a very, very good result. I mean, but a point in isolation is a good result, but a point on the back of 2 draws in games you should have won, then that's not a great result because you look at it in isolation, point at the Emirates, you're happy with it. But then when you look at 3 points from 9, that's not good.
No, exactly. No, I'm so glad you pointed it out because that's the big thing. Like if we look at it in isolation, it's great, but I think fans, especially if you're on Twitter or wherever online, they're gonna point out the fact that it's only 3 points out of 9 that we could have gotten. Like, it doesn't look great on paper. If we had won those games, like we probably should have because we were in winning positions, then even just a point here looks fantastic. And even if we won those 2 games, I believe someone mentioned it, I think we'd be tied or ahead of Aston Villa on the table right now. So it's one of those situations where. Damn if you do.
Villa have been dropping points. So it's just frustrating that we've not taken advantage. We should be 4 points closer to Villa. We'd be a point behind them now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a shame. I mean, I know you can't win them all, and I know with some circumstances, like, you're going to drop points, but they were there to be won. If we had just been more defensively solid, I think we'd be having a different conversation now. Speaking of defensive solidity, too, I'll ask this as well. How do you feel about Robert Sanchez this season? It's an interesting one.
Mate, he's done much better. Like I think myself, yourself, a lot of Chelsea fans have said some not very nice things about him over the duration of his stay at the football club. I still maintain we should have signed a goalkeeper in the summer. We didn't. But in fairness, do you know what? He's played very, very well this season. And his game has gone to levels that I didn't think he was capable of reaching.
Me too,
He's not been an issue in this team. You could say one game, United, where he gets sent off in the first 5 minutes, where he's been a disaster. Other than that, I'm not looking at Sanchez and thinking. Obviously, the Carabao Cup, he made 2 poor errors in that first one. But
first leg,
like when you're struggling to think of bad games that Sanchez has had, that's quite some turnaround given what we were experiencing over the first couple of seasons he was here. Do I think he's a title-winning goalkeeper? No. But do I think for where we're at right now and the other needs that we need to address, that's the least of our worries right now. We've got to go and address other areas as we discussed. So do you know what, mate? He's proven me wrong. I'm more than happy with the turnaround in form that he's had. And he's been one of the better keepers in the league this season.
Yeah, and I mean, again, as a match-going fan, do you feel that he's also kind of stepped up as a leader in that back line?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, mate, I think he has. And you know, there's definitely...
It's crazy we're having this conversation.
Yeah, mate, it's mad. But, you know, certainly when he wasn't doing well, he was making mistakes, he wasn't particularly popular in the ground. But now, you know, there's people, I'm not saying people love him, but, you know, he's definitely people have definitely warmed to him more. Yeah. And he's not viewed as an issue.
Yeah, it's a complete, like, I got to give kudos to him. I mean, we had this discussion on the show. There's even potential that he could be the player of the season.
Well, as in for us?
Yeah, for us.
Yeah.
There's a conversation to be had.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a potential conversation. So I think as well, you know, the stupid goals we've conceded, you know, we haven't, even if we've not conceded just like half of those stupid goals, he'd be a lot closer to the Golden Glove. And when you speak about our defense and whatnot, and how we've made a lot of mistakes and stuff, you know, I think these individual mistakes have probably cost Sanchez an opportunity of being in the running for that Golden Glove.
Yeah, no, if he's like one or two, maybe two or three clean sheets away from leading the league in clean sheets, like, and from Raya, like, it's insane that the turnaround's been this, you know, drastic. So good for him. I was actually happy to see how the fans were warming up to him, like you were saying, especially going to the match now and experiencing that. And I was like, wow, I remember it wasn't too long ago on the broadcast, you can hear the boos every time he touched the ball. And now we're applauding him from saving us from a Badiashile howler against Crystal Palace. Yeah. You know, like, it's great to see. And it warms my heart because, you know, we want all these players to do well. Even Garnacho. I wanted Garnacho to work out. I wanted all these players to do well.
This is what people don't seem to realize, right? Every player that joins a club, whether you agree or disagree with the signing, whether you think they're good or not good, the moment they sign for the club, the moment they got the blue shirt on, you want them to do well. Because if those players do well, it means the club does well. And ultimately, that's what everyone wants.
Yeah, even the match-going fans, they start, you know, singing their songs or cheering them on. Like, there's the support is there. So now that I've been to the games, I don't want to hear any online fans saying, "Oh, the library," like the Stamford Bridge crowd are singing all the time. And people don't hear it because the microphones on the broadcast don't pick it up. I don't know what the issue is, but like, I think the away fans, the home fans, they're super supportive, even of players that I don't like, or I don't rate as of recently, like a Neto or Garnacho. Like, it just goes to show, like, and I hear people say, like, oh, our home form is bad because our away crowd. Like, I'm not hearing it anymore. There's no excuses. Like, these players are professional. They get paid so much money to do what they have to do. Not to say that's an obligation to perform, but like, they even have the fans to back them. Like, I'm not having it this, like, oh, the Bridge is a library, it needs a better atmosphere. Maybe it could improve an atmosphere, sure.
It definitely needs to improve an atmosphere, but I think, you know, in terms of...
I think it's overblown.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Look, it's very good for the big games, for the night games and whatnot. I think where there is a bit of a struggle is the teams games against the lesser teams. The
Burnleys, the Wolves,
yeah, exactly. But I think, like, people need to realize, like, is that the home atmosphere is not just a Chelsea issue. The majority of the grounds you go to in the Premier League, the away fans are louder than the home fans, bar Leeds and I would say Newcastle and maybe Liverpool on occasions. The rest of the time, you know, home atmosphere, home support is a league-wide issue.
Yeah, it's fair to bring that up, especially considering, like, the context. Like, people don't realize these things, and you as a match-going fan and me having officially finally gone to a match, which I was so happy about, it's totally different. And I beg anyone who has not seen Chelsea yet, if you know someone, if you get a chance to go see Chelsea at the Bridge, like, dude, it's life-changing. I can't lie to you. But Charlie, Chelsea Hour, I appreciate you coming on. Before we wrap it up, what is your prediction for this weekend's fixture?
To be fair, I think I've done a couple previews and I've predicted us to lose, so I can't really be a flip-flop and suddenly change my mind. So
sure,
I think we'll lose this game 2-1.
Okay. Hey, listen, I don't blame you. I'm not gonna say, oh, fake fan, not back in the club. Like, no, of course not. Like, I think you're just being
I'd love
realistic.
nothing more to be wrong, by the way, but I just, on the evidence that we have seen so far of our record against Arsenal in recent times, players missing, we're unsure how Rossini is going to approach big games and whatnot. I just think we're not going to lose or whatever. We're not going to get battered or whatever. But I think it'll be closer than people think. It will be a tough game for Arsenal as well. We'll give them a game, but I think ultimately we'll just come up short.
Yeah, and you know what? I wouldn't even disagree with that entirely. I'm maybe a little bit more optimistic. I'm not going to say we're going to win. I don't think we're going to win. I just put that out there, chat. I'm putting that out there to everyone. We're not going to win. But if we do, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. I will be insufferable on any panel that I go to that has an Arsenal
if we
fan.
win, it'd be unbelievable. Yeah,
because we also kind of like close up their title hopes if we win.
Well, yeah, it's double. It's a double whammy for us. We get the 3 points, which is massive for us, and we do English football a massive service by denting their
not just English football, all of football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, by denting their title chances. So we're not just doing it for us; we're doing it for the greater good.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. I do think we'll give them a run for their money because personally, me, like their defense is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm never gonna say their defense is not good, but they can be had at. And I think they were a bit fortunate against Spurs that a few decisions went their way versus what we think should have been a goal for Colomwani that second time. But regardless, it doesn't matter. Maybe that changes the game. Maybe it doesn't. It's Spurs anyways. Their attack, I don't like their attack. I don't think their attack is good. Saka's been having a horrible season. Yeah, Gyökeres is having a good month of February, I'll say that. He's been scoring some good goals for them. He looked good against Spurs, but it could have been Spurs' attack, so who knows? And yeah, their attack just hasn't been great. So I do think our defense is, like we spoke, not great. So we probably will concede some stupid goals. I do think it'll be a 2-2 draw. Yeah, that's how I feel. I think we'll have some chances to score. Yeah, João Pedro, I think, has been inevitable, so I'm hoping he remains inevitable. And Palmer, I think Palmer's had some good moments, and I think he can definitely take advantage of that momentum going into this game. So I'll go 2-2, and we'll see where we go. Hopefully we walk away with a point. Hopefully we walk away with 3 points. Don't think it's going to happen, but I'll take a point. And then we go into Villa and Newcastle. Those are some tough games. Which one are you going to? The Emirates?
Yeah, Emirates. Yeah, we got Wrexham before the Newcastle game. In the cup,
we do. So, you go for that one too?
It's gonna be touch and go. The capacity is so small because they're redoing the ground. Yeah. It's gonna be very difficult. If I can get a ticket, I'll definitely be there.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, obviously, guys, you know where to find Charlie. Is it CFC?
Yeah, that's the one. That's a good one. That's the one.
Yeah, he's doing content on there often. I think he does pretty much a post-match reaction every time. He also does the news cycle as well. Talks Chelsea there, just like us here. So go ahead, show him some love and support over there. Twitter as well, where he has some good tweets there. Sensible Chelsea fans. That's what we like here. Chelsea fans that can think with the head between their shoulders. So yeah, Charlie, I appreciate your time, man. Hopefully, maybe we'll see you for the World Cup here in the States. Hopefully, I get to see you again too in England sooner rather than later. Yeah, we'll link up. Maybe we'll have a pint and have a good time, man. But anything you want to say before you head off?
No, just thank you for having me, bro. So it's a pleasure to chat, pleasure to catch up, and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Ladies and gents, we're not going to raid out to any. Actually, let me see real quick. Maybe I can do a quick little raid here. But folks, you already know how it works here. If you haven't done so already, be sure to smash up the like button. Helps out tremendously with the channel's growth. We're on our way to 5K subscribers. So hopefully we can get to 5K sometime soon in the future. Big reveal at 5K. So definitely want you guys to see what that big reveal is going to be. We actually are going to raid out. So here's the raid message. Go ahead and copy. We're gonna raid out to CB1 Millie. I believe he's still on. So big up CB.
He's on for hours.
Yeah, CB always gives us good laughs as well, and he's probably gonna go to the game as well. He was at the last Arsenal Chelsea game and he nearly got in a bust up. So luckily that didn't happen. So luckily he's okay. But yeah, we're raid out to him. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Like I said, like up the video, hype up the video if you're watching this in the future as well. Hype up the video helps out the channel. channel. Be sure to also check out the memberships. There's I'm doing this really quick on the fly. Bear with me, chat. 4 different tiers starting at 99p. Big up to all of you. It always helps out the channel tremendously in terms of keeping the lights on. And if you are a proper casual and higher tier member, we give shout outs at the end of every show, and that's going to be Lanre Sadiq, A. Soliman, EE, and Adrian. Big up to you guys. That's it for today's Chelsea Hour, guys. Once again, big up to Charlie for coming on and giving us his time. And hey, we'll talk again soon, and hopefully Chelsea will be in a much better spot. Maybe champions of Europe. Well, maybe we'll sing that again. We'll see. But big up, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Stay casual as always. We'll catch you later. All right. Good night.